So for me, recently, something that's been kind of, I've been reminded of is a lesson that I learned when I was working with an organization called Team Red, White, and Blue. We were doing one of our workshops, and one of the workshops was talking about how veterans are really good at one-upping each other. The branch jokes, whatever. We're really good at one-upping each other, and everyone has a better story. And the conversation was, so how often are you one downing yourself and saying, well, I'm not worthy of this, or I didn't do that, so I don't deserve. Yeah, so that's been something that's I've been reminded of, and that was something that I was doing with my own healing. I was like, well, I have all of my limbs. I didn't, go through this, and I didn't experience that, and I'm okay, and I'm not depressed. I'm just in a weird place, and I didn't give myself credit, and I was one downing myself and one downing my experiences. And so anybody that's out there that needed to hear that, like, you're worthy of healing, and it doesn't matter if you didn't go through this experience or the other. Like, your experience is your own, and you're worthy of healing, and you're worthy of work for yourself.
What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. We filter all of our conversations through the man box, where we unpack how as men we are expected to act in society, how fighting the authentic human experience is exhausting and damaging, and how mindfulness can help. Now, on to the show.
Hey, hello, welcome everybody back to Men Talking Mindfulness. We are in episode 15 of season number 3, and today we have two fabulous guests. We have Jesse Gould and Juliana Mercer from Heroic Hearts Project that are here to educate us all about psychedelics, psychedelic therapies, what they are, how they can help, and have been helping all sorts of people with trauma, depression, and so much more. Can't wait to get in the show. Once again, I'm Will Schneider from New York City. There's my brother from another mother, Jon McCaskill, over there in Colorado Springs. And John, welcome. I think you have a couple announcements for us. Good to be here.
I sure do, man. Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure to be here with you, man. And speaking of psychedelics and our amazing guests, Jesse and Juliana, Will and I are actually going to be joining former Army Ranger guest from our episode on trust, Neil Markey, at an upcoming 5-day wellness retreat at the beautiful Imaloa Institute in Costa Rica. That's November 19th through the 23rd. And there are still spots available, and we'd love to meet you there. We'll drop the link in the comments here in a second. And then the next announcement is the next mindfulness and movement experience with Movement RX kicks off October 27th. And if you're ready to improve your mental and physical wellness, join me and Will with our partners from Movement RX for this 21-day online journey. I'll drop the link to sign up for that directly here in a second. But if you're not sure, join me and Dr. Teresa Larson in either one of 2 upcoming webinars where we'll introduce you to how mindfulness and movement work together to improve overall health and wellness. And these webinars are next week, October 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern, or the following week, October 21st at 6 p.m. Eastern. Again, you can directly register for the webinar, or rather for the experience, through the MTM link provided here shortly, or you can sign up for one of the webinars if you want to know more about it prior to actually registering for the experience. And then the last announcement, as Will is sporting our sweet shirt there, the MTM swag is officially out there in the wild. It's out there, and we're very thankful for those who purchased it. If you have purchased MTM swag, we'd love for you to take a picture of that and post it on social media somewhere and tag us. Let us know what you think of the MTM swag and help us grow the show, grow the network, and grow the family. So That's it.
Yeah.
Let's bring our guests up, brother.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, today that's Juliana, right? We have Jesse Gould. We'll just go through some bios and talk about our very impressive guest today. Jesse Gould, first up. Jesse is recognized as one of the most influential voices in psychedelics today. He has spoken globally about the benefits of psychedelics on mental health, with his work being featured in the New York Times and Rolling Stone magazine. Jesse is a former Army Ranger and founder and president of the Heroic Hearts Project, where he has spearheaded the research and acceptance of ayahuasca, albigaine, and psilocybin therapy programs for military veterans. Jesse has gone on to raise $500,000 in scholarships, partnered with the world's leading psychedelic treatment centers, and is researching psychiatric applications with the University of Colorado Boulder, the University of Georgia, and the Imperial College of London. Wow. His mission is to help military veterans struggling with mental trauma and spread awareness of the benefits that psychedelic therapies offer as an alternative treatment to pharmaceuticals. Awesome.
And I'll intro our other awesome guest, Juliana Mercer. Juliana is a Marine veteran who served for 16 years, during which she deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan and spent 5 years providing holistic support to wounded Marines recovering at the Wounded Warrior Battalion in San Diego. Since leaving active duty in 2011, Juliana has committed her career to support her veteran brothers and sisters through their successful transition into civilian life, which I know can be a bear personally. Juliana has a deep understanding of the needs of the veteran community and what it takes to support them through their transition from military back to the civilian world. Juliana serves on several nonprofit veteran service organization boards and founded a public benefit corporation. I'm going to screw up the pronunciation, but I think it's Sabe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Juliana.
Sabe.
Sabe, I knew it.
Sabe.
I was like, it's not as simple as it looks. I knew it. Well, Sabe, there you go. An organization that aims to create meaningful change in the world through individual transformation and healing through psychedelic therapy. A portion of Sabe's profits expand veterans' access to wellness through the support of veteran nonprofits like Heroic Hearts Project. And I'll drop a link to that here. We're going to get to know both of these guys way better and their personal experiences with psychedelics. But first, Will, back over to you, brother, for the opening grounding practice.
Yes, and I see a lot of people already tuning in to the show, our live show, and like really excited, and we're very excited as well. But let's actually kind of ground and focus this energy by just doing a simple breath practice. I'm going to play with one that really helps to kind of ground us and release some stress and anxiety and kind of those nerves a little bit. It's very simple. We're going to take 2 inhales. We're going to the first inhale. We're going to take like a big inhale. Then we're going to take a little sniff through the nose, top that inhale off, and then we're going to exhale out the mouth. We're going to do this 7 times, and that's it. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, right? If you can close your eyes, great. If you're driving or you're out in the street, maybe just kind of stop what you're doing for a moment and just join this breathing practice and this grounding practice as well. So make contact with your feet on the floor if you're kind of sitting in your chair somewhere. Exhale your breath all the way out. You can ground your hands on your desk or on your thighs, or maybe bring a hand onto your belly and your left hand onto your heart if you like. And we'll just start with a nice exhale out the mouth. Empty the breath all the way out as best you can. Good. Take a big inhale through your nose, trying to work for a complete breath, filling the bottom, the middle, all the way to the top of the chest. Hold. One more little sniff through the nose and exhale out the mouth. Good. And keep going. Fill up. Inhale, 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 inhale. Hold. Another sniff. Exhale out. Keep going. Breathe in again. See if you can create a bigger, more enriching, complete breath. Another inhale. Exhale out. Good. In through the nose again. Hold. Another sniff. Exhale out. Good. A few more in again. Another inhale. Exhale out. Last 2. In. Another bump. Exhale out. Very nice. We'll do one more. In. Fill it up. Another inhale. and let it go out. Good. And just take a few smooth breaths in and out of the nose. Just, remind yourself where you are. Remind yourself why you came here today. Calming yourself down. Just be aware of yourself emotionally. Just kind of checking in, being aware objectively of our emotions help us to establish and become more aware of our emotions, creates more emotional literacy, more emotional intelligence. And the gateway to this knowledge is just grounding with some breath sometimes. Great. Well, I'm super excited for the show, and you're ready. Open your eyes and we begin. Thanks for being here, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. You didn't tell us it's High Fashion Day, Will.
Oh, you mean with the shirt? I know. Oh, Jesse. Oh my God.
You should have would have worn a tuxedo or something to match the beautiful shirt you're wearing.
Well, let me tell you how soft this cotton is, Jesse. It's so nice.
Helping us to sell it.
It's the stitching is amazing. So thanks for even noticing that, Jesse. So beautiful.
I think you pulled the Tosh.0 high fashion quote out, man. I love that. It's cashmere high fashion. The shirt is not cashmere, just so you know. But hey, great to have you guys. And we're going to just jump right in. So I guess the best way to start is giving a little bit of background story as to, a little bit of your military experience, but then how you guys got into and why you guys got into this world. And I guess what led from that into starting the organizations that you have had or started. So Juliana, let's start with you.
Yeah. So I got into this world because I was finding solutions to help veterans be successful in their lives. I can't remember the first time I heard the 22 a day number. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it seems like it's been a long time, and that number hasn't changed. And
22 regarding what, Juliana? 22 is that veterans?
22 veterans a day are losing their lives to suicide, and that number has been around since I can remember. I don't know if y'all recall when we found out about that number, but it hasn't changed. And since even before that number was something that we all knew about, I was working with wounded warriors. I was working with veterans that were exiting the military and just trying to figure out ways for us to, I call it, not fall into the black hole, and making sure that, you are using your GI Bill, getting education, getting engaged in your community, staying physically active, doing the things that holistically make you a whole person. And we were still butting up against that number and still losing friends, losing veterans to suicide. And I personally got to a place where I wasn't feeling purposeful, even though I was doing purposeful work. And thankfully, I came across information about psychedelics, and someone introduced me to Jesse Gould with the Heroic Hearts Project, and I was able to go down to Costa Rica and have an experience with ayahuasca. That experience opened me up to recognize that I had healing that I needed to do, that, our country had been at war at that time about 18 years. And that was my life. Every day was our country being at war, my friends and my brothers and sisters being at war, whether it was actually in theater or at home dealing with their, with the struggles that they were dealing with. And I collected a lot of that trauma and a lot of the energy that I expelled helping my brothers and sisters kind of drained me. And so I found myself in this place where I recognized that I needed to do something, that something was wrong. And thankfully, through the work that I did with plant medicine, was able to recognize how I got to that point, but also give myself credit and the ability to start the healing process. So that was my entryway and the reason that I found psychedelics and experienced this intense healing pretty much overnight. about 20 years of healing overnight. And after that, felt an obligation to shout it from the rooftops and tell every veteran that I knew that needed healing about these therapies.
Wow. Thank
Powerful.
you, Juliana. So the insights that you know about wanting to help, that came through the experiences with plant medicine, like it kind of had the epiphany.
No, so I mean, I left active duty and went almost immediately into the nonprofit space and was helping veterans. So I was doing it was an easy transition for me because I was 5 years working at the Naval Hospital helping my wounded Marines transition. So I learned a lot about the pitfalls that there are in transition. And built a really beautiful network of people that wanted to help veterans transition. So I had been doing that. And at one point I found myself feeling not purposeful, and not wanting to help anymore, and not having the energy to give to help my brothers and sisters like I had been for the last 10 years at that time. And the plant medicine helped me to get back to a place where I was whole and I was able to continue giving back.
Wow.
Nice.
Thank you.
And what about you, Jesse? So Juliana referenced finding HHP. How did you get into this world and lay the foundation for that, prior to getting into psychedelics?
Yeah, absolutely. And the beautiful thing about this space, and I think the mindfulness space too, is when people find, especially veterans, find things at work, they want to share that with the community, because we all come from this community that's suffering and hurting so much on the inside, and so many people have been in that trench for 10 years, and so when there's finally some sort of light, it's so uplifting for yourself and then other people. So of this chapter anyway, my story starts. I was an Army Ranger. I was a non-commissioned officer. Multiple deployments to Afghanistan, in charge of a lot of junior rangers and overseas and at home in training situations. So just sort of the weight of the world, as I'm sure you understand. And I think us coming from that special operations world is you get so mission focused, and you're also like very confident that you don't think things like mental health can even touch you or has any purpose there. Like that's not something that's in our lexicon. It's a walk it off, like if you're
some dirt on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so when you get into it, like I think a lot of us are just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna hit the ground running. I did all this, like I hit the challenges and I did fine. And what does the civilian world have for me that I can't master or hit? But then slowly but surely the demons or the dark clouds or whatever it is starts eating away at you. And so a lot of us, I think, I'm sure you're the same, John, where like you're very successful on the outside or you're doing good things, but on the inside, when you get home, when you're by yourself, it's just, that's when a lot of this stuff starts coming out. So right. I found myself in that situation, and I consider myself very lucky because I was able to see the red flags. I was able to see, that time in the mirror of like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is not you. You think you're still a Ranger, but you have not been living by those ethos for so long. And I just couldn't. And so I knew there was an issue. I just had I didn't know how to overcome it. I didn't have any support there. And even when I went to the VA, it was just sort of this very baseline of like, okay, you have PTSD. Here's your prescription. Come back to us in a month, just because that was their understanding too. And so I just found myself in this situation of like, what do I do? And if professionals can't help me, who am I? As my major is economics, I'm not like a mental health professional. Yeah. So fortunately, just through whatever luck of the universe, I heard about ayahuasca. I came in as a skeptic, dare child, as a lot of us, where it was just like all drugs are bad and you're probably a criminal or going to be a criminal if you take any drug. And so I kind of had that like thing of like, if I do psychedelics, then I'm in this other crowd that I didn't think I was in.
You're in the hippie arena.
Exactly, and I
kidding.
didn't. I like shorter hair. I don't want to like have to grow out my hair because
The man
I was
bun.
doing this stuff.
Yeah.
I've tried to grow out my hair and it doesn't look good. So it's just all these things weighing on me. And so I ended up, for whatever reason, there's always the back of your brain that's smarter, even though we think the thing that is speaking right now is the smartest thing in the world. But for whatever reason, part of my brain was like, hey, this needs to happen. And eventually it was just this slow learning process while I was like, self-sabotaging and just living sort of a miserable life. And fortunately that found me to Peru, where I went through ayahuasca. For people who don't know, it's a psychedelic that comes from the Amazon region. It's a combination of two plants that's brewed down into sort of this thick tea. And when you drink it, it interacts with your body and causes sort of a hallucinogenic psychedelic state that lasts for 4 or 5 hours. And it has rich cultural history going back thousands of years, used by Amazonian societies for cultural purposes, religious purposes, healing purposes, spiritual purposes, and has been some sort of interaction with the Western world, but specifically more so in the past 20, 30 years. Because of the effect, because of the power of it. So I went in, was like, what am I doing here? Like I just left a finance job and now I'm in the Amazon unemployed. And went through
Ready to do drugs.
Yeah, exactly. And it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. But within that, there was respect. There was understanding that this was not what, the D.A.R.E lion told me it was. Beyond that, there was healing. There was profound insight into my own life, but also what it seemed to be a physical reset of my brain. And so coming from that situation where I was just like, what just happened and why did I not know about this before? With the consideration that there was a lot of work afterwards as well, not a magic pill by any means. Is that it almost became like this obligation of like, if you know something and you think you have the power to help others or you have the power to change this dynamic, then there's this sort of obligation that I think you can't really avoid going into it. And that's what led to Heroic Hearts Project, of at least providing this information, sharing this information in a way, Jon, like there's a specific way to talk to vets, very simple terms, slow speaking. Can like add on a lot of like things that I can add on to it. So bringing that to it, and then also facilitating other vets that potentially wanted to do this that fell through the cracks. And that's what we're dealing with. The vast majority of people who come to us have been in the VA system for multiple years, have tried all sorts of different prescriptions, have literally fallen through the cracks after trying every single thing out there with limited effect, limited potential, and finally seeing how they can actually be a real human again after these processes.
Right. So you're saying like what you're referring to is like, going through the, I guess, traditional pharmaceutical medical route of like trying to heal and then, going into an alternative way. Is that what you're kind of referring to?
Just looking for options, looking for something that works. And this is not to knock, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, the VA is horrible. VA, like it can be a great institution. The people working there tend to be wonderful people. It's just the nature of bureaucracy, the nature of the drug guidelines. And so it's not this sort of like evil necessarily corporation. But if you look at the statistics and what Juliana was mentioning in terms of this number of veteran suicides per day, this has been hundreds of billions of dollars that have gone in federal funding to the VA for the last 20 years. And I think I read something recently where it was like 4 out of the last 5 years, the suicide rate only increased. So something is not working.
Right. Wow.
So what about talk about numbers? How many people have gone through an HHP program, and what are you guys seeing as far as effects and reporting back?
Yeah, so by the end of the year, we'll have served over 125 veterans, and it's just sort of the start of it. Next year, we have the capacity, the capability to serve multiple hundreds. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, so everything kind of depends on the funding side of things. But we're finally in like this good spot where the attention's there, the recognition's there, the research is there, and people are paying attention. And so we hope with the same sort of quality to continue sending vets. And that's a key point I want to emphasize, is that it's not about getting more vets to psychedelic treatments. It's about getting more vets to a program of support to where they can effectively use these treatments and continue to run with it. And that's kind of something that gets caught in the excitement around all this, is that it's, again, and Juliana can expand upon this, is the psychedelic it's powerful, and it can enhance therapy, it can enhance healing, but you cannot just rely on that to solve all your issues. You have to do a lot of work beforehand, you have to do a lot of work afterwards, and if you incorporate it with respect and you understand the process, then yeah, you're going to have a good formula for getting better healing, going on to practices of mindfulness, or starting off practices of mindfulness. But it's not just a mere factor of me handing out mushrooms around the world like Johnny Appleseed kind of thing. It's a more involved kind of thing.
Yeah, well, in the psychedelic community, it's called integration, right? Like really the integrative process after you have this, typically profound psychedelic experience, and then what do you do with that? And and I think and one of the things that Heroic Hearts do, it provides that integration process, which that allows, and just everyone out there, like that allows this incredible, profound, wide, heart opening, mind opening, spirit opening experience to begin to weave and integrate into your life. And that's what, that's one thing. Like I did ayahuasca in Memorial Day weekend. I did 2 nights, and that's just, when you don't have that support, sometimes you kind of fall off, from that experience. And I've definitely had some things that really helped me from that experience, but I probably could have gone deeper for sure. But yeah, I just want to mention that as far as what it really means to integrate.
What about you, Juliana? Since you had that experience and now you've got Sabe going, what is Sabe doing, and how did that come to be?
Yeah, so just to touch on the integration and the preparation piece, Heroic Hearts Project connected me with a coach that helped me to prepare and set intentions and go into the experience knowing why I was going into the experience, and really being able to understand what the purpose was, helped me through the experience, but it also helped me afterwards integrating all of the downloads that I received. It doesn't happen, you have an experience and you have this journey, and that's just the beginning. Every substance is a little bit different in terms of how long the integration process is, but a couple of years later, I'm still getting some revelations from my ayahuasca experience from a couple of years ago. And
wow.
And I continued to work with the coach that Heroic Hearts Project connected me to. Actually just talked to her the other day, but it's been such a useful tool to have somebody that can help guide me. And she's helped guide me through several experiences since then. But I also, at the time that I did do the ayahuasca, had been using the Cone Clinic. They provide free mental health for veterans. And so I had started working. I had started working with a therapist that was absolutely great, but she couldn't talk to me. I could tell her, hey, I'm doing mushrooms and I'm doing ayahuasca and this is what happened. But she couldn't tell me, good. Like she couldn't talk about the psychedelics specifically. So that was where my integration coach came in, and between the three of us, we got Juliana back to her authentic self, and without those components of the experience could have very well just been a psychedelic experience. And so, and you asked about Sabe. So a big part of what Sabe does in connecting individuals and groups to psychedelic experiences is the pre and the post. So everyone that does come to Sabe retreats does have to commit to preparing and then the post integration sessions that they have. Because I think it's so very important. And I've run into people that have had these experiences and didn't have integration, and they're looking to that next experience. And because they feel like they didn't get anything out of the first one or the second or the third. And when I ask them about their integration process, they're like, what's integration? Mm-hmm. And so they receive these downloads from the medicine, but they didn't implement them into their daily lives. And that's what integration is.
Right. And the psychedelic experience that you mentioned there, didn't just have a psychedelic experience. I know when we've discussed with Neil Markey in the past, the importance of set and setting. Can you guys talk to the importance of the mindset and the setting that you're in? One or both of you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And Juliana, what you should mention where the Sabe comes from. It's a beautiful name that comes from a beautiful backstory as well. Set and setting is absolutely important, and like a lot of the people we come across have, maybe not, some of them have psychedelic experience, and it's kind of more of doing mushrooms when they're a teenager, or LSD or what have you, and maybe a lot of them might have gotten some benefit from it. But maybe it was at like a concert or something like this where there's a lot of distractions and all this other kind of stuff. And then that also leads into this concept of a bad trip. We're going to hear about that, or you're going to hear about that a lot, of like, how do you not have bad trips, or are you worried about bad trips? And we honestly have not had this sort of notion, because when you prepare somebody and when you have an environment where they're supported and they feel safe, it's going to be a very challenging experience. So a lot of the guys that we serve or girls that we serve have had multiple, like 10 plus deployments, and have seen what the world has to offer in terms of good and bad. And the ayahuasca ceremony can be one of the most challenging things in their life. But that's not a bad thing. That's 10, 20 years of trauma coming to the surface that they're processing through. So it kind of makes sense that that's going to be a challenging thing. And that's where the environment comes in, that they're safe to process it. They can feel vulnerable among other people that are also trying to heal themselves. And so having that preparation, having that setting, it's challenging trips, not bad trips. Bad trips come from when you take LSD and you're in like a chaotic environment and people are freaking out around you, and you're just like, what the hell am I doing? That is the bad trip of no thought, no intention going into it. And so the reason why set and setting are important is because psychedelics really enhance your perceptiveness on all sensory basis. So whether that's sound, sight, feeling, just other people's energy, for lack of a better word, you're very perceptive of it. And so if you are surrounded by chaos and all this other kind of stuff, it's going to overload your system. And so in the shamanic practice, in a lot of these situations, they have music and the environment going on and all this kind of stuff, because that guides the ceremony, because you're so perceptive of it. The music intermingles with the ceremony in a way that is ineffable, that you kind of have to experience to understand that case. And so that is the importance of all this, in terms of not only having your ceremony be something that's not, like making you freak out a little bit, but also the poignancy of it. So especially for veterans, where when we have these ceremonies, they're designed, we work with people who know what they're doing to make sure that you're getting to the root cause of what people are going through, that it's going to be intense, but it's going to be intense in a progressive way.
Yeah. Well, let me just also say, I know we're talking about veterans and people in the military, but this, me being a layman out here, without the military background, like I've received as like just a regular person with my own life, with my own traumas, with my own, battles with myself, I have received tremendous benefits from these plant medicines. And one thing you actually said the word like 3 times, Juliana, like, what do you mean by download? Like, what is that? Like, what is that? Where does that come from? Like, why do you use that word? Because it's, in this kind of in this conversation. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I think that goes back to part of the reason that I named my company Sabe. Sabe means to know, K-N-O-W in Spanish. And it's an ode to Maria Sabina. She is the Mexican curandora or healer that inadvertently introduced psychedelic mushrooms to the Western world back in the 60s. But Sabe, to know, I believe that these medicines connect you to your inner knowing, and they connect you to your authentic self. And when I say download, I think the download is you're downloading the questions to the answers that you have, and you're connecting to the answers that you have within you. So I believe that we have the answers that we're looking for. We just haven't been able to access them, whether it's because we're gunked up with anxiety or depression, or we're gunked up with all the different things that we've like put away and haven't dealt with. And we're not able to connect. And you can make those connections through many different ways, whether it's meditation, breath work. Psychedelics is a fast track to those ways, and it opens you up and connects you to yourself, and it allows you to hear and download the answers that you already really pretty much have inside of you.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great explanation for sure.
Love it.
Like, connecting to the unconscious, really.
Totally visualize that happening too, with just the use of that word. Talking about psychedelics and everything that we're discussing here right now, what are your guys' kind of uphill battles in the work that you're doing? I mean, I know there's a psychedelic renaissance, right, that's happening right now, but I know there's still, when I talk to people, like I microdose with psilocybin, and I'm here in Colorado, so it's somewhat allowed. But when I tell people I do that, I see people's eyes like, what? Kind of going back to what you were talking about before, Jesse. Like, hey, I was a D.A.R.E kid, right? Also with Nancy Reagan. Hey, the war against drugs and everything else. And so my image of any type of drugs or users of said drugs was just like you mentioned before. How do you overcome that with people that you're discussing when you say, look, this is what we're doing with either HHP or with Sabe? And if I'd known it was Spanish, I would have nailed it at the beginning. I know Sabe. So dang it. Anyhow, over to you guys.
I mean, that's the work we're all doing. And even just you with this platform, the same with mindfulness, right? Like, if you go to the veteran, like if we went to the next Buds class and be like, hey guys, it's mindfulness, you're going to get like everybody rolling their eyes. I went through that. It was like during a jump master course, and they're like, okay guys, we have to do a meditation. I know, right? And then we just went through this like bogus like meditation thing, because that's the culture, that's perception. But the advantage or disadvantage, which it's kind of more of the tragic story of that so many people are suffering, and it kind of takes them getting to that almost rope's end for it to happen, is that they see other individuals, especially those that are well respected in our communities, and when they know the person post-military and then the person post-psychedelic experience, then our community will be like, what happened to Jon? Like he's saying I love you, he's giving people hugs, he has a good family relationship, like that's not the guy I know. And so it's really just that. And I think that's what we've lost sight of in a lot of ways, is at the core, the only way for all of this to work, the only way for us to be successful in the future is community. Is how do we relate to each other? How do we support each other? How do we keep track of each other? And the psychedelic sort of process really inspires that, because at the very basis, you're doing it, generally speaking, in circles and communities and with other people, and you're supporting each other. You're suffering with them, almost in the same military sense of being in the same trenches as everybody else. And so just that communication of and seeing it speaks much louder than any word can. I'm not there convincing people to take psychedelics. I'm there sharing stories of people who have been helped by it. So those that relate to that have a pathway to go there. You know, we're not trying to peddle drugs. We're not trying to, I'm a firm believer that psychedelics are not for everybody. I'm a firm believer that big hallucinogenic experiences are not for everybody. But there is a time and place for a lot of people that want to do it. They just have to come there, because if you push anybody to go to this before they're ready or before it's their time, then it's not necessarily going to end up in the way that you think it is. But for the people that have that calling, that are ready, that are willing to do all this preparation that we've been talking about, it's the same thing with like mindfulness. Like, you cannot say like, hey, you're going to be mindful next week. They have to want it. They have to put in the work. They have to see the reasoning behind it in their own mind. And that's what we're all here trying to do, of just sharing our stories, hope people listen, and at the very least provide the platform that they can ask questions, they can feel comfortable, they can feel that it's approachable. I think that's where the veteran side can be leaders in this, is because fortunately we in the US anyways, we do have this platform of respect, platform that generally across many demographics, people will listen and respect where we're coming from. And so at least that message, if we use it responsibly, can be very helpful and very healing for a broad side of the society.
Well, what you mentioned, it's not for everyone, right? And one of my questions I was going to ask later, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in now. Who would this not be for, or what are some conditions that this is like contraindicated against?
Juliana, you want
to? Sure. So you should, anyone that's going through one of these experiences, if you're not being asked your medical history, it's not a good place to have a psychedelic experience with or at. So there's different medications that contraindicate with psychedelics, to include SSRIs. And there's also certain things that were predisposed to certain mental health conditions, schizophrenia, for example. So something that people with that are predisposed to that are not generally good candidates for psychedelics. And then there's also people that maybe are, down the road would be good candidates, but they're in an unstable place with their depression or with their mental health, that we need to get them to a stable enough place so that they can benefit from the psychedelic experience. So that's Jesse, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, that's kind of the biggest things. It's the first things are the baseline medical, like Juliana said, like certain medications like SSRIs, and also depending on which substance they're using. So for instance, ayahuasca and SSRIs do not mix. Other baseline like heart conditions, history, psychosis, high blood pressure, other kind of stuff, you have to be conscientious of that. And some of those are kind of no-goes in that space. And then the rest, which again is sort of the paradigm shift that we need to have happen, is that mental health is different than an ailment. It's not that you have like the flu and this is a procedure, or this is like the medication you can take, or a broken bone or what have you. It's a court. It's a much longer term investment. Like, you're not like, it's not that you do something, you take a pill, and then all of a sudden you're good. You're all set for the rest of your life. It's a continual investment. It's a continual work in progress. So we kind of need to view it that way. And so within that is figuring out where people are in their own mental health journey. And so if they're very much on the unstable end, then maybe blasting off into a strong psychedelic experience is not the best thing. How do we get them to a stable platform with other modalities? And there's a lot emerging right now that are great, and then figuring out where they're at, what do they need. There's a lot of components that psychedelics can bring, but there's a lot of components that other things can bring as well.
Well, let's actually keep going. One of the questions I have is, we mentioned 3 psychedelics, and psilocybin, which comes from mushrooms. We mentioned ibogaine, which we haven't even talked about yet, and I've had no experience with that. And then ayahuasca. So how are they similar? How do they differ? And then maybe, how maybe someone, that has that's currently on SSRIs right now, maybe another one of these other psychedelics I just mentioned would be helpful or something like that. So, what's the distinction between them and also some of those similarities?
Juliana and I had go ahead.
We can't forget about MDMA, but yes, Jesse.
Oh, MDMA, yeah, that's well, that's also an empathogen, so it's a little different. Like I love MDMA is wow, that is a very profound drug as well, and I think it can help a lot of people that suffer from anxiety and stress and just overworked and stuff like that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, MDMA, the latest studies with MAPS and Johns Hopkins, it was on military veterans with post-traumatic stress, 67% effective on curing, not just helping with curing clinically resistant post-traumatic stress. So we're hoping that by 2023, it'll be legal for use in therapy. So that's really exciting. And psilocybin has similar...
No, I'm sorry. I feel the world will be a better place. A little more MDMA out there. It's like, melt into love is kind of the way that I have MDMA. It's just like, the world is just so beautiful. Anyway, sorry.
MTM, men talking MDMA.
Yes. Yeah, I can't wait. 2023, you guys are coming back on.
Yeah.
So real quick, you mentioned MAPS there, and then I want to come back to all the other different psychedelics that Will mentioned. What is MAPS?
MAPS is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic
Studies.
All right. There you go.
It's a really long name. So MAPS has been at the forefront of MDMA, getting MDMA FDA approved. And that study was actually done at the VA, which is amazing. It's really, really encouraging that we're making strides. But MAPS is, Jesse, has it been 30 years that they've been working on that? Over 30 years?
Yeah, so I mean, people should look into the story. Rick Doblin's an amazing human being. He was actually working with MDMA in a legal setting in the 80s with not only depression, but couples therapy and all this other kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden that got swept into the war on drugs. And they're like, hey, we're having effective results. Why would you make this a Schedule I substance when we're actually having medical benefit to it? But it's just the whole thing of what we're dealing with all of these substances is like, oh, if there's a party association or we just don't like it or we can't control it, then let's make it illegal and not even researchable. So anyway, he's been doing that since essentially right after that, the 80s. He actually went back to school and mastered, I think, at Harvard of how effectively to do this, of putting a drug through the FDA process. Dedicated his life, has been grinding before people are even now. Money's flowing in and stuff like that, but just an amazing story. So he's been doing it for a while, finally getting the end state of that. In terms of the previous question, and I think Justin Clark on the chat also kind of looked into this. Yeah, there are a lot of different substances, and they each have their own personality. And if you don't understand what that means, you kind of have to go into them because they each have their messages or their way of interacting with your system or however you want to view it. And they're unique, and you can get different messages from different substances. So some might be, for instance, ibogaine is kind of known a little bit more as the analytical one, or ayahuasca tends to be a little bit more metaphorical, but also spiritual or connecting to a lot of ancient wisdom. Juliana and I had the opportunity to be pummeled by ibogaine pretty recently. Wow. I hesitate to. There is a movement, or there is a traditional inclination to have like this substance is meant for this diagnostic, and I don't think that's the right way to view it. Again, I think one, it's going to be individual. Like we all. If you look at like cannabis, how different people interact differently when they ingest or smoke cannabis, it's going to be the same thing. Like your body genetically is going to interact how you do it. It's the same kind of thing with ayahuasca. Like the smallest person can take like huge amounts versus this huge like army grunt can take the tiniest amount and go to the same depths, and it can be different every single day. So it's really your own, again, mental health journey and relationship. And I do want to emphasize relationship with these substances. It's a different way. These are not drugs in what we think of drugs in terms of you're prescribed this. This is a relationship with yourself and how you interact and what you're going to explore within yourself. And so on the top level, that being said, like I said, there's a lot of veterans that have been using like ibogaine. Ibogaine is very associated with addiction, so it has been very helpful with people with opioid addiction. They all tend to, maybe more prominently with ibogaine, help physical damages with the brain. So veterans with traumatic brain injury, there's evidence of increased plasticity, neurogenesis, helping those with brain damage. Ayahuasca, like the bigger ceremonies, tend to be really good with veterans just because they kind of need to have that strong message to pay attention. But psilocybin can be very grounding and can be the different part of it. For people who are on medications, that can't necessarily do ayahuasca or something, then that's where potentially ketamine or an MDMA can come into play, where those can be very effective for their different chemical properties. So ketamine has, on a chemical side, a very fast-acting antidepressant effect for a huge portion of people, and anti-suicidality. And it can also be used for people that are on medication and can have almost a psychedelic state at certain doses. So people who know what they're doing can really enhance traditional talk therapy. The same with MDMA, because it has this empathetic and trusting sort of nature, where traditionally therapists hit walls with people because they're in this state and they don't want to go deeper. MDMA can really open that up and allow people to be vulnerable, allow them to share it, and kind of go into sort of this more deeper internal processing. So they're all very interesting. They all have, it's in my mind, tools in the toolbox, and it really will take people who want to heal others and see where they're at and work with them in that. And even within that, Juliana and I have been working with different people that have different protocols and all this kind of stuff. And so it's a very exciting field to be in, because it's all sort of at our disposal in terms of like figuring out how do we work with individuals, not how do we work with diagnosis.
Well, I mean, just going a little further. So each one has their own personality, but also has their own almost ceremony, if you will, around them. And like time, like I haven't done ibogaine, but is that like a 1 day, 1 night thing, 2 hours? Is that 3 days? And what are the other ones? Like, I know ayahuasca, like I've done 1 night, a few times. And then the last time I did it, I sat for 2 nights, and I received, like, the first night was really intense, like really seeing myself as, how I harm myself, how I harm other people. It was really kind of like, oh God, this is like, it was really got me down deeper into more of the core of some of this trauma, I guess, I've experienced and how I express that trauma. And the second night I had like, oh my God, all about kindness and love and how to repair those relationships to myself and other people. And, I really walked away with a really, that download that you talked about, Juliana, like really hit me on I'm feeling on such a deep, deep, deep level. And I just kind of stepped out of that arena into the arena of my life with like this incredible openness and willingness to dig a little bit deeper into myself, but also, dig a little bit deeper into the relationships that I have and how I want to change them. So what are like the different ways in which you would recommend from your experience that you go about each one of these?
Somebody asked, it sounds like you need a guide to figure this all out. And I agree. I think, if you're a veteran or if you're anyone, finding someone that's well-versed, there's a lot of coaches out there that are versed in helping to figure it out. Like I said, unfortunately, our therapists can't help us with that yet. But there's coaches out there, and there's organizations. There's a lot of nonprofits that will help guide you. There's a lot of make sure that the information that you're getting is from a vetted source, and you're not just going on the internet for anything in your life. But make sure that you're talking to a trusted source, and understanding these substances. I know my coach helped me figure out, okay, so had this beautiful opening with ayahuasca. There's still something that needs to be worked on. And we decided that psilocybin was what was going to help me with what I was going through. So I think it's important to make sure that you have help. And that's one of the reasons that we want to decriminalize this, so that it's okay for people to ask these questions and not feel like they're going to be looked down upon or criminalized. And we're able to have these conversations. So that's part of the reason that we want to make these substances at minimal decriminalized.
Where are we in that process? And also, real quick, you have to forgive me. I was moving all around in the background here because my computer was about to die. I had totally forgot to charge it or plug it in, and my computer froze, and I dropped an MF bomb in the background. I don't know if you heard all that. But if you did pick up on that, my apologies. But okay, all that aside, where are we in the legalization or not, or what would you call it, decriminalization of these different substances?
Yeah. I think Seattle just became the latest to decriminalize. So it's the largest city in the U.S. I think we're at about 16, maybe give or take, cities that have decriminalized. Oregon has completely decriminalized all drugs, to include psychedelics. And in California, Heroic Hearts Project has been part of the lobbying efforts. It's a bill, SB 519. We've been part of the lobbying efforts to decrim most psychedelics, not all, in the state. And it's looking like we've come a long way. And I think that bill it got punted to next year, but we're still working on it. And it's been really encouraging because, part of the lobbying efforts have been, us sitting in front of Congress members and senators and assembly members and sharing our story, and actually having changed a couple of votes in sharing the fact that as a veteran, as a native Californian, it's an obligation for Californians to allow our veterans, the biggest state in the biggest veteran population in the nation. We need to give our veterans healing modalities and access to it. And sharing that and being heard has been like really encouraging to me, not just for California, but for the rest of the country.
Yeah, to expand a little bit on that, it's encouraging because it's almost becoming like dominoes, where California is one of the biggest states. Texas recently passed a research bill, and that flew through both houses, that there's a mandate to study more. And across the country, Pennsylvania and Florida are having similar bills. New York is looking into it. And then there's also a lot of effort and awareness on the federal side and the NIH, the National Institute of Health. So it is getting there. And the NIH director, which is, for people who don't know, the one that funds the vast majority of research in the US and sort of the cream of the crop, so to speak. The director actually came out of psychedelics have a benefit to society. So it is permeating through it. And for those that are curious, the reason why we're doing decrim, and it's not just there's not an aspect of increasing psychedelics on the street. That's not necessarily how this works. It's to open up discussions, to have these community organizations that can actually make it safer, because it's not, right now there's so much fear because if you mention it or if you have used it, there's that criminality thing that's looming over your head, but people are still going to use it, right? Like that.
Right.
We've never shown prohibition to be an effective policy, but we still tend to want to do it for who knows what reason. I'm sure we'll continue to have prohibition in the future just because that's how things go. But So these are stepping stones. These are conversations. These are making it safer and allowing it. And the interesting thing is each passing bill is sort of an evolution of the previous one of how do we mold it to this community? How do we increase the benefits around this? So Oregon will be a very interesting model because in addition to the decriminalization, they passed another bill at the same time that will allow actual clinical use and communal use of psilocybin. So in about a year and a half, if you're in Oregon, you will be able to go to your therapist that is licensed and ask for psilocybin, even just to enhance your life. It doesn't have to be because you're depressed or what have you. But for other groups, they can go to another place that's licensed and let's do a psilocybin circle. And that is an amazing thing in terms of why should we not be able to do that right now, which is the baseline question. And why should we not be able to research anything, whatever the substance is? That's the thing I don't understand, or I understand it, but that's the baseline. Like, we are at the very core just trying to research this, look into it. If it is dangerous, then maybe we should know about that too, you know?
Yeah, great point. And you hit on something there too that I want to hit on. I also want to be respectful of you guys' time, and we're at an hour. How are you guys doing? Got some time? All right. So the next question I'll ask, and then we'll start to wrap it up for you, is what are ways that psychedelics do enhance your life aside from therapy that we've talked about, aside from dealing with depression or anxiety or post-traumatic stress? What are ways that psychedelics can be used by people who are enjoying their lives right now, but to enhance their lives?
I'm glad you picked up on that. I actually wrote down enhance your life after Jesse said that, because it's, a lot of people ask me, well, who should take psychedelics? And I'm not depressed. I don't need psychedelic therapy. And I'm glad we're covering this topic. And I think a lot of people use microdosing, for example, to enhance their lives. Microdosing there's a few different substances that microdosing can benefit people. Psilocybin and LSD are two of them. But the microdosing on psilocybin, for example, a lot of people experience more attention, like they're able to pay attention better. They have less fog. There's more mental clarity. These things also open up your empathy, so you're more connected. Psilocybin in particular connects you to nature, and so when you're microdosing, you're just a little bit more aware of your surroundings. You're way more mindful of everything that's inanimate and also in nature, and you're just more clear and focused. So those are some small ways that microdosing can enhance your life. But even some of these big doses, who doesn't need more empathy? Who doesn't need more compassion? So that's going to enhance your life. And even if you are in a really good place, there's always something that you can work on and be more aware of.
I think so. All of those, and there's also this side of things of just expanding your perception, expanding your understanding of yourself, your world. There's I know this is a loaded word, but I use it a lot. Spirituality, and don't shut off because I use that. Spirituality in my mind means connectiveness, whatever you need to be connected, and also how you view your place in the world, whether that is a religious aspect or whether that is just I am standing here in nature or in this community or what have you. A lot of us don't have that. A lot of us lose connection, and that's so important in mental health. And psychedelics tend to really bring your importance of who you are, where you are, and why you are important in yourself, in your community, in nature. And that is a beautiful thing. You don't see that in any other sort of setting. But I also say, if there was a substance or some sort of thing where, Will, you could take this and you could see for the next few hours ultraviolet spectrum, or you could see like sound waves or something like that, like expanding your perception. You'd be like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like that I can see like a snake or something like that. That'd be very cool. And you could see the world in different perspective. Psychedelics are the same sort of thing. It's just we have viewed them, or we've stigmatized them in a way of like, oh no, you're getting high. But no, like we are living in a certain perspective zone. And that's not the be all end all of how the world works. And so psychedelics do actually, in fact, expand the way you see the world in a very unique way. And the reason why people become true believers is because you can feel it. And you know the truth. So for instance, people who have done something like 5-MeO DMT, like especially veterans, I remember I was just at a retreat, and the word that came out of his mouth during it is "I remember," and that "I remember" was happiness.
Wow.
And
and
that is that connection to it where you feel that. And that is not being high. That is seeing things or getting out of your day-to-day bubble of limited perception.
Yeah, it's being connected. Like one way that, like, 'cause I've been, trying to talk about mindfulness and meditation, and helping people maybe take a look into psychedelics, and that word spirituality, it could get really confusing with religion and higher purpose and stuff like that. And I've gone on to really speak of it as energy, right? That's what, like, we're the difference between me sitting here talking to you and me, and the bag of bones that would just lie on the floor if that energy wasn't inside me. It's like we're all energy, and that's what a lot from my experience. These psychedelics and pathogens, and I haven't taken ketamine, which is dissociative, but they really begin to expand your energetic experience. So you begin to, again, that perception, like how you perceive, how you filter, how the blocks that are in the way. Like you talked earlier, and someone kind of mentioned it here. It's like that relationship to yourself. Like if you're a kind of person that is always trying to control things, right, it's going to be, your experience with psychedelics, it's first roadblock is kind of letting go of control and kind of falling in to the experience. And that's what you brought up earlier, Juliana. That's why it's important to have a guide. That's why ayahuasca is very ceremonial based. The ayahuasca that, I don't know, they have the dyad. So 3 weeks before I'm going into my ayahuasca experience, I'm like cutting dairy, I'm cutting meat, I'm like cutting alcohol, I'm not smoking any marijuana. So I'm really mentally and physically and energetically preparing myself for the arena of ayahuasca, which is incredibly, very, very, very profound. But I know, but you're going to face yourself with any one of these psychedelics. You are going to see not just who you have been, this is my experience, but what you can do and who you can be. And naturally, we're like hardwired to connect, to ourselves more deeply, but also connect more deeply to other people. And then you're going to find a way. Like, I think there's a really great, and I'll make sure I post it here, really great video on the Heroic Hearts Project. I forget the soldier and the military man who's like, he has tattoos everywhere. You think you would never hear the guy, this person utter the words that is coming from his mouth of like wanting to help his community, wanting to actually teach yoga. And he's like completely opened up. And I don't know how many days he sat with Mother Ayahuasca, but it was several from what I remember. But like, he just went way outside of what his typical energetic and spiritual experience has been with his own life, and in like this limited kind of box of reality, and then just boom, blew it wide open. And then he kind of stepped into a whole new possibility of who he can be. And then also wanting, like, cause I know they say ayahuasca is heart medicine, and it really helps to open up the compassion and that wanting to be a greater force in the world for more love and more connection to yourself and other people. So I don't know. That's like what I wanted to share in some ways.
Yeah. The guy's name is Gabe, and the continuation of that story. It's not just like, oh, this is right after it. He, in one of our more recent retreats, is actually a facilitator, helping the passage of other veterans go through it years after his own experience. So,
yeah, Gabe. Yeah, I'll make sure I share that video. It's a really wonderful, beautiful Yeah, I was crying at the end. I was like, oh my God, that's so nice that he's doing this, and to see such like seeming like a hard guy, like just completely like, find himself. And I think that's part of finding your heart and then connecting. And also like you talk about that download, Juliana, like he actually started to develop that conversation with his heart and himself. And then he's able to really be an agent for change in the world. So that's what this stuff really has continually taught me, that I can be a greater force. And this is part of what the thing that, me and Jon are connecting here, Men Talking Mindfulness, and creating this platform, because there's a better way to be as a person and as a society as well.
Yeah. And just real quick to emphasize on that, like it's all of this. It's not just one thing. It's not just like it's mindfulness. It's and everybody's different. So if you don't like meditation, that's fine. It takes a lot of work, but maybe there's other stuff. But it's developing tools, giving people these pathways to. You don't have to suffer. We're all going to suffer on the day-to-day basis. Life can be pretty tricky, but you don't have to do it in the long term, and you don't have to be isolated.
Yeah, and take things so personal. In some ways, like sometimes I've realized that it's not me, it's like it's other people bringing their energy, or it's like I'm processing, events in my life in an old way or something, where it's like, no, I don't need to go there. I don't need to like, lend more of my emotional life and more of my energy into that space, which just kind of pulls me into a spiral or into a depression or into some kind of conversation or relationship that, that isn't going to serve me in that moment or forward.
And Juliana, you were going to say something too.
I struggle sometimes with the word spirituality, and not because I don't believe in spirituality, but because I don't want to turn people off. And I call it connectedness, that connectedness to self, to others, to the universe, to nature. And that really, to me, that's the spirituality, is me being connected to all of those things. So I say connectedness as opposed to spirituality, to like keep people from tuning me out.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's I'm writing that down. I'll use that later on.
Well, as we kind of come to a conclusion here, a couple of things. What is it that we haven't discussed that you want our audience to hear? And then two, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they find out more about you and your organizations?
So for me, recently, something that's been kind of, I've been reminded of, is a lesson that I learned when I was working with an organization called Team Red, White, and Blue. We were doing one of our workshops, and one of the workshops was talking about how veterans are really good at one-upping each other, the branch jokes, whatever. We're really good at one-upping each other, and everyone has a better story. And the conversation was, so how often are you one-downing yourself and saying, well, I'm not worthy of this, or I didn't do that, so I don't deserve. Yeah, so that's been something I've been reminded of, and that was something that I was doing with my own healing. I was like, well, I have all of my limbs. I didn't, go through this, and I didn't experience that, and I'm okay, and I'm not depressed. I'm just in a weird place, and I didn't give myself credit, and I was one-downing myself and one-downing my experiences. And so anybody that's out there that needed to hear that, like, you're worthy of healing, and it doesn't matter if you didn't go through this experience or the other, like, your experience is your own, and you're worthy of healing, and you're worthy of work for yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a great reminder. Mm-hmm.
In terms of I definitely agree, and that's very well said, Juliana. To a hard transition into self-promotion from that.
Go for it. Yeah, but you're also promoting like health. You're promoting
right.
So it's like
I was looking for the bridge. I was like, there's not one relationship.
We built it right now.
Yeah, so we're a 501c3 nonprofit, heroicheartsproject.org. We're on all social media. So for veterans, there's applications if they want to sign up. And it's not just, it's mainly, the core is ayahuasca, but we work with all different modalities. So we've sent people to ibogaine, we've sent people to ketamine. So it's not just, it's figuring out where people are in their healing journey. So that's there. We have an ambassador program for anybody, veteran or professional or what have you, that want to support in some way or just kind of have a more inner circle sort of experience with us. We do monthly calls with that and have them, help out with events or help out with veterans. So there's an application on our website and ways to support. But at the end of the day, a lot of this is we having people donate money, donate time. That's the way we move this. All these veterans have fallen through the cracks, so they're not covered by insurance. They're not covered. And unfortunately, with mental trauma comes financial instability. And so that's where we come in, where we subsidize, we provide grants for them to get to these treatments that are actually life-saving on a broad spectrum. And so for those that are listening, that's how we can continue our mission. If when people provide any means of donation and support, or even just connecting us to those that potentially can help in a big way. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Just donating or sponsoring a veteran, sponsoring a whole retreat. If you want to help, we can definitely find a way for you to help. So just reach out to us.
Awesome. And we'll make sure all those comments, all those links are in the show notes going forward. So, and then also on social media, we'll come back and answer a lot of questions that have been coming in via chat through the show. Sorry, Juliana, I cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can, here on LinkedIn is a great place to find me. Sabe Journeys is open to anyone, veterans as well. I think our retreats are really good for groups and couples. So we curate the retreat to fit your needs. And we also are going to be doing all women and women veteran retreats as well. So focusing on that alongside the Hope Project.
Fantastic.
And again, proceeds from Sabe do go help support these organizations that are opening the door for veteran healing.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to wrap it up with a closing practice just to get us back moving into the world outside of the Hollywood squares here, and then we'll wrap up the show. So again, thanks so much. Will, any last comments before I start the grounding practice?
No, just a great thanks to you guys and a great thanks to everybody that's participated in this conversation. I think we could keep going and going and going. We'll have you guys back at least someday again to talk about even more specifics about how this is helping people. But I really appreciate your time, and Jon and everyone for being here today, because this is a conversation that needs to be had, needs to be promoted, needs to be moved forward, because there's a lot of people that are suffering, not just veterans, and these therapies can help in a very, very profound way that we just heard about today. So thank you for sharing everything that you did.
Yeah. And Will and I are actually going to share our experience in that retreat that we're going to go to in November. We're going to share it here on the MTM podcast, and we're going to share it on all our different social media platforms. So be on the lookout for that. That said, let's go ahead and drop into our closing practice. And if it's safe while you're watching or while you're listening later, go ahead and close your eyes if you're comfortable. Otherwise, just soften your gaze. Let's bring our attention very intentionally to our breaths. Just simple breathing. Nothing forced, but just noticing it. Noticing the physical sensation, the rising and falling of your diaphragm, the expansion and contracting of your belly, your chest, your lungs. The air passing your nostrils and out past your mouth as you breathe out. Just simple awareness. Again, nothing forced. Being in the here, being in the now. Paying attention. All too often we're thinking about the past or thinking about the future. The present is where life happens. Let's live in the present. Be aware of that present moment. Right here, right now. Let's close with one deep cleansing breath together. This one will be together. Begin by breathing out all your air. Bringing your navel to your spine. Breathe in deep in through your nose. Fill that belly. Fill your chest. Hold at the top. And relax, letting it go nice and slow, slow, slow. And now come back. When you're ready, blink your eyes open or refocus. And that is a wrap. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Wonderful show. Thanks for the audience listening and watching. And this will be available in podcast form on Tuesday, but it is out on video on YouTube and LinkedIn and all the other places right now. So that is a wrap. Thanks so much, Juliana, Jesse. You guys rock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thanks for joining Will and Jon on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.